A powerful superhero trope that actually makes sense is that of an animal's sidekick. Superheroes get to share their secrets with them, including that of their alter ego, and confide in them for emotional support. The Phantom had his faithful and loyal friend Devil, a mountain wolf, and Hero, his horse. Superman has Krypto, and last but not least, He-Man has Battlecat. The relationship between He-Man and Battlecat is very special, as he can speak and gives more support to his superhero partner than other pets. Just like He-Man, Prince Adam has his non-powerful persona, Battlecat has Cringer. Cringer is a scaredy cat, lacking both the courage and strength in his powerless form. But when he's Battlecat, he is an irreplaceable partner to He-Man. What's his creation story? What twists has his story taken? Let's find out.
We can transform on our own?
The Battlecat toy origins. According to production accounts, often retold in MOTU histories, the creators wanted He-Man to have a unique vehicle. Unfortunately, they didn't have a budget for it, so a brilliant decision was made to reuse a tiger mold they made for the Big Jim toy line. Fun fact, this was not the first time this mold was reused, as they had earlier used it to make a Black Panther for their Tarzan and the Jungle Cat set. The mold was not the same scale as the He-Man toy and ended up being the size of an up-to-scale horse. Artist Tony Guerrero reportedly did not think it would be a good idea for He-Man to have such a huge tiger as his vehicle, but the idea stuck. So, to discourage the concept, the tiger was painted green with yellow stripes. This backfired, as the wild color scheme became part of the appeal. A saddle was added to the animal, and thus, Battlecat was born. The early Minicomic origin. In the early Minicomics, He-Man was a barbarian fighting Skeletor and his forces after the sorceress granted him special armor and weapons to guard the secrets of Castle Grayskull. There was no Prince Adam, and similarly, no Cringer. Battlecat was a tiger who was granted strong armor by the sorceress. This red-armored steed of He-Man had no alter ego. He was a brave and loyal companion who aided He-Man in fighting the worst of his enemies. Battlecat was mostly ignored in the minicomics though, as he doesn't even appear in most of them. I couldn't blame the writers and artists for it, as he played a negligible role at the time and couldn't even speak. The DC effect. One of the biggest stepping stones towards the Eternia most fans recognize came from DC Comics, especially when DC helped introduce the Prince Adam and Cringer setup before Filmation locked it into pop culture memory. They'd made a lot of changes to the original 4 minicomics created by writer Donald F. Glut and artist Alfredo P. Alcala. They were packaged with the toys and formed the basis of the early MOTU universe. He-Man debuted in DC Comics in the 47th issue of DC Comics Presents in a crossover with Superman, in the issue titled From Eternia with Death. Written by Paul Kupperberg and illustrated by Kurt Swan and Mike DiCarlo, He-Man has an alter ego called Prince Adam and is trained by Man-at-Arms. We see Eternia as a sword and sorcery world that also incorporates extremely advanced technology. And more importantly, we see Cringer speaking. As Adam grabs a drink at the local tavern, Cringer claps his paws around his ears and lies around Adam's feet. Cringer would rather hide in a corner in the castle he calls home instead of the bar, and he whines about it. The shouting of the jolly visitors of the tavern begins to give Cringer a headache. Adam tries to console his faithful friend and reminds him that they're there to enjoy the fine times with hardy fellows. Cringer whines, pleading with him to return to the castle. A visitor taunts Adam by asking if his pussycat is afraid of his shadow again. Despite not being in his Battlecat avatar, Cringer is wise and asks Adam to let it go, as the visitor's probably looking for trouble. The Adam we see here is a bit of a troublemaker, and he invites the man out for a tussle. The man, who is named Crusher, gladly accepts the invite and throws Adam out. Before the fight begins, Teela intervenes and asks him to get his behind back to the castle. Adam here is more of a fighter than a bumbling fool like in the later versions. The loud call of a falcon attracts Adam's attention, and he rushes to the Cavern of Power, home to the sorceress with Cringer. They're welcomed by the sorceress, who calls them He-Man and Battlecat. She uses her magic to grant them both armor and sends them to stop Skeletor, who's gotten his hands around one part of the key of Castle Grayskull, the Power Sword. Skeletor knows he only has one half of the Power Sword, but he's not willing to let that stop him, and he strikes the door of Castle Grayskull with his half. The result is breathtaking as a huge storm of clouds erupts and opens the gateway into Earth. Superman, who is on his routine patrol, goes to investigate and ends up in Eternia. He battles Skeletor and his minion Beastman. Unfortunately, Superman is super susceptible to sorcery and gets knocked into the ground just as He-Man and Battlecat arrive. Superman introduces himself to He-Man, who has heard of him thanks to his earthly mother. The two join hands in fighting Skeletor, but the villain figures out Superman's weakness to sorcery and uses it to control him. He makes Superman fight He-Man, and an awesome battle takes place between the two heroes of different dimensions. Once He-Man is subdued, Skeletor directs Superman to break open the door to Castle Grayskull. As Superman flies towards the castle, he decides to rebel by using his heat vision to heat up the land on which Skeletor is standing. As the land grows molten, Skeletor is distracted and Superman breaks free from his magical control. He captures Skeletor, but Skeletor escapes by disappearing. Superman is thoroughly confused about everything that happened, to which He-Man offers to explain, but Superman locates a space-time warp opening that will lead him back to Earth. So he rushes to get back home and asks He-Man to find a way to call upon him if he ever feels the need. Now, I know the story is mostly focused on He-Man and Superman, but it gave us a lot of insights about Cringer. He's not a wimp per se, but he is certainly sensitive and whiny, qualities you don't see in Battlecat, who is more reserved and opts to let actions speak over words. Filmation found him in the hills. Filmation's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is the show that turned MOTU from a toy and mini-comic phenomenon into a full-blown pop culture empire. I'm not just speaking about the huge MOTU franchise that grew thanks to the popularity of the show, but also the format of half-hour cartoon commercials, basically cartoon shows created with the intention of selling toys. They might be a thing of the past, but in the 80s they more or less ruled the cartoon scene. We get to know about Battlecat's origin in the Season 2 episode, Battlecat, listed by Apple TV as Season 2, Episode 33, and commonly treated by some MOTU guides as Episode 96 overall. The episode starts with Orko getting up to his shenanigans as usual. Duncan asks him not to mess around in the lab as his magic's not dependable. Unfortunately, Orko doesn't listen and dives into a cabinet with some solution. Cringer asks him to stop, reminding him of Duncan's warning, but Orko doesn't listen. He tells Cringer that he's going to make him brave while mixing different solutions. Cringer tries to sneak away, but Orko uses his magic to make Cringer's paws stick to the floor. The solution creates a loud sound and a pink gaseous creature erupts. The explosion alerts Duncan, who uses a spray to neutralize the creature and traps him. Orko refuses to admit his mistake and tells Duncan that all he was trying to do was make Cringer a bit brave, like he is when he's Battlecat. So Duncan narrates a story that started about the time Adam found him. Adam was still a child then, and he had agreed to test out Duncan's new device in the hills of Eternia. The device was an animal collar that made noises of all the animals Adam might encounter. Adam took the device with him on his solo camping trip. The trip started out well, but soon Adam encountered a hungry saber cat that was attacking a bush. Small meowing noises were coming out of the bush, and Adam used the animal collar to make a manticore noise to scare the saber cat away. Adam then found a quivering and wounded green kitten in the bush. Adam gave him some first aid, but decided to take him back to Duncan for proper care. Gradually, because of Duncan's expertise and Adam's love and care, the kitten got well. The kitten was easily startled, and the other kids in the palace made fun of him by calling him Cringer. Adam saved him from the bullies, but named him Cringer as he thought it was an apt name. Suddenly, a vision of the sorceress popped up, which scared Cringer so much that he hid behind Adam. Adam snapped at Cringer that the sorceress was a friend, to which the sorceress asked him to be patient with his pet. Adam thought Cringer embarrassed him, but the sorceress assured him that Cringer would be very helpful to him in the future. Adam and Cringer grew up, but Cringer never changed. He stuck to Adam like a shadow, though, and Adam always had to escape Cringer to turn into He-Man. Thus, things began to change when an archaeological party discovered buildings in the jungle of Eternia that were over 100 centuries old. King Randor appointed Duncan to lead a full archaeological survey of the place, as it would reveal a lot about the history of Eternia. Duncan asked Adam to come along, and though nobody invited Cringer, he joined them anyway. The party's focus was on the main building, which was covered in vines and had no other signs of life. As they discussed how to proceed, Teela and Adam wandered off and discovered some inscriptions on a door. They reported it back to Duncan, who told him that he would take a look in the morning as it was about to get dark. He asked them to get back to camp, but the two did not listen. They went back to the door and Teela shoved her sword into one of the cracks. Nothing happened then, and the two returned to camp. When they came back to the door in the morning, they noticed the cracks had widened, and Duncan decided to blast the door open. The door opened and revealed the monstrous Gedge inside. The sorceress realized it with the help of her psychic powers and rushed to the spot while Adam changed into He-Man. What he didn't know was that Cringer was watching him from behind a tree. As Adam became He-Man, Cringer let out a whimper that He-Man heard. To soothe him, He-Man turns towards Cringer and unwittingly pointed his sword at Cringer, which made him muscular and brave, along with giving him a red helmet, armor, and saddle. He-Man remembered the sorceress's words all those years ago and rode into battle on Battlecat. The sorceress arrived and told him that Gedge could not be defeated or killed, but could be imprisoned again. So, with the help of Battlecat, Adam lured Gedge back into his prison and snuck back before Duncan slammed the door shut. Duncan finished the story by telling Orko that the whole thing could have been avoided if only Teela and Adam had listened to him. But one good thing came of it though, as Cringer became Battlecat. Adam hugs Cringer as he tells him that he's glad that happened, as without him, He-Man would have been a lonely fellow. Now listen, I know this story is full of plot holes and weird connections. Remember that the story was written for kids in the 80s. Besides, no kid would sit around wondering why Duncan made it a lesson against not listening to him while he was the one who blew up the door. I think it gave us a pretty wonderful origin story for Cringer, though as it started with the kitten being saved by Adam and ended up him helping He-Man win a vicious battle against a monstrous creature. That's what I call growth. The 2000s upgrade. The 2002 reboot of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe by Mike Young Productions did not get the love it deserved, but it has a lot of stories worth looking into. The one we're looking into, obviously, is the 3-episode story of The Beginning, which tells us how Battlecat got his origins. It starts with Keldor and his forces attacking Eternia and the Council of Wisdom appointing Captain Randor to rule Eternia in their place as king. Before Randor can take a call, he's thrust into battle with Keldor. The battle ends with Keldor's face being burnt from his own acid, and Keldor is forced to retreat. Randor was left to rule on his own, with an assurance from the sorceress that a hero would soon emerge to protect them all. Keldor was banished to Snake Mountain, and the sorceress put up a mystical wall to make sure he didn't return. A few years later, Randor's son Adam has grown up to be careless, as he thinks his father defeated Keldor for good. He doesn't take his training seriously, much to the chagrin of Duncan. Meanwhile, Keldor, or Skeletor, creates a device that would create a quake so strong that it would break the mystic wall protecting Eternia using the crystal from the Sea of Rakash. Skeletor and his forces break in using the device. The sorceress senses it and asks Duncan to bring Adam to Castle Grayskull. There, the sorceress tells Adam that he will become the defender of Eternia and the protector of Castle Grayskull's secrets. Adam doesn't believe her and returns to the palace to see that it has been attacked by Keldor's minions. Adam rushes to join the battle, and Orko forces Cringer to go with him to help Adam. Adam's too late as he sees his father getting kidnapped. Adam rushes back to Castle Grayskull. What he does not know is that both Orko and Cringer have been followed. As the sorceress gives him the power sword and he is transformed into He-Man, Cringer and Orko watch on. The sorceress decides he needs a loyal companion and brings forth Cringer and Orko from their hiding position. Adam points the sword at Cringer, and Cringer becomes Battlecat. This origin story is not my favorite, as we hardly get to know anything about Cringer or how he became Adam's pet. All we know is that Adam chose him to receive the powers as he believed in his loyalty. One thing I will commend the show for is how they depicted Cringer as someone who has courage even without Battlecat's powers. The best example of this is Council of Evil Part 2, which is the 26th episode of the first season. As Skeletor's forces get the upper hand, Adam makes the stupid mistake of losing his sword, but Cringer jumps to his rescue, saving him from any real harm. The Netflix editions. In December 2019, Netflix had two major MOTU projects moving forward. The first was a CGI series by Rob David aimed at kids called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which was released in September 2021. And the second was Kevin Smith's adult-oriented animation continuation titled Masters of the Universe Revelation, which was marketed as a continuation of the classic Filmation era. First, let's take a look at how the CGI series handled Cringer. Cringer is a respected member of the Tiger Tribe who looks after Adam, an amnesiac teenager. The first episode starts with Cringer going off to hunt even though he has no claws. It goes as well as one might expect, and Cringer is captured. Adam frees him with the help of his friend Crass. Adam had no idea who his family was and had been under the care of Cringer for the past 10 years. Cringer is a very noble animal in the show as he insists on doing his part even though no one would blame him if he didn't hunt. It's later revealed that a poacher named Rayquaza has taken his claws. Compared to the classic Filmation Cringer, this version is almost a reinvention. Still loyal, but older, tougher, and more protective, and tied directly to the Tiger Tribe mythology. When Adam shares the power of Grayskull with the rest of his friends, it's not a surprise that he includes Cringer. Under the influence of the power, Cringer becomes Battlecat. Both Cringer and Battlecat are invaluable partners to Adam and aid him on his quest to protect Grayskull from Skeletor. In Masters of the Universe Revelation, there's no new origin story, as it's technically a continuation of the old series. A bit of a spoiler alert. Both He-Man and Skeletor are killed in the very first episode of the show. Teela realizes that Adam was He-Man mere moments before his death and is extremely hurt that he hid such a huge part of his life from her. When Duncan reveals that He-Man has passed away and He-Man was Adam to King Randor, he fires and exiles him. Teela's hurt deepens and she decides to leave the palace, as she is not sure she can trust people who would hide such a huge huge secret from her. She becomes a mercenary, but fate eventually pulls her back to Grayskull and the Sorceress, who tells Teela that Eternia is dying without magic, which disappeared with Adam. Teela refuses to help them, not wanting to deal with her illusions and secrets again, but Cringer stops her. He reminds her that she was the one who named him Cringer. He was someone who was afraid of his own shadow, and because of that, he knows what fear is. He tells Teela that she's not walking away because she's angry, but because she's scared that she would let Adam down. Teela reminds Cringer that she didn't know the real Adam, but Cringer did. Cringer retorts that she did know Adam. She was his best friend. He adds that Adam would not have sacrificed himself if he was not sure Teela would protect Eternia in his place. Adam had trusted Teela with something more than his secret, Eternia itself. Cringer concludes by saying that though he knew Adam's secret, Teela knew his heart, and all she had to do now was ask herself what Adam would want her to do. So in a way, you could argue Cringer becomes one of the emotional keys of the story. He's the one who brings Teela into the mission of getting Adam back, and without him, Adam would have stayed in Subternia, the land of the dead. Cringer in the series is written with great self-awareness and emotional depth. He embraces his flaws as a part of him and uses them as a lesson to strengthen his relationships. It's also a testament to what a great friend Cringer is, that he can know what his friends are going through and what to say to help them. The live-action hopes. If you were a kid in 1987, chances are you've been eagerly awaiting the release of the Masters of the Universe, the motion picture. It was He-Man's first live-action film. Dolph Lundgren was going to be He-Man. This was something worth the excitement. Then the film released, and wow, did the excitement come crashing down. So many essential parts of He-Man were stripped bare in the film that fans barely recognized their beloved hero. There was no Prince Adam. It was mostly a story set on Earth. Many important characters were cut out, and Cringer, aka Battlecat, also got axed. In some way, the film is important to the franchise, as it is the only live-action film we MOTU fans had for a long time. But that's not the case anymore. The new Masters of the Universe film, directed by Travis Knight and starring Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam and He-Man, is currently set to release on June 5th, 2026. Recent promotional footage and coverage suggest Amazon MGM is leaning much harder into Eternia, the fantasy world, and the classic character roster than the 1987 film ever did. Battlecat is confirmed as part of the film's lineup, but whether the movie gives Cringer a full origin story is something the fans will have to wait and see. It's not hard to root for a loyal animal companion in any media, and that's just a fact. Cringer or Battlecat, the tiger's loyalty and faith remain steadfast. This can't be said for his courage and bravery, but hey, he gets full points for trying. I don't think I could pick a favorite origin story of Cringer. The CGI version is definitely the most unique though, as we see Cringer as this fiercely independent, clawless tiger who refuses to admit he needs help. The best Cringer, though, is the original Filmation version. Alan Oppenheimer, who voices Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, and a whole host of characters in the series, also voices Cringer and Battlecat. The dopey voice he uses for Cringer is what strikes a bullseye for me. The vast differences in their characters and the fact that Cringer remains beside Adam, even though it would mean riding into battle with him and facing certain death, further proves my point about Cringer's loyalty. He might whimper and whine a lot, but he is brave for sure. That's all I have to say on the matter, and if you like this video, you know the drill. Smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell to always know when we post more awesome stuff. I'll be back soon with more mind-blowing stuff, but until then, goodbye, and as always, stay marvelous.